We are plowing on with the MIFF content with the 7th film that I saw at this year's fest. I got to see the world premiere of Beast of War, an Australian-made shark film from the director of the Wormwood movies. So, let's get into it. So this was just a fun little screening all in all. The director was there as well as a couple of people from the cast, including the lead actor in the film. They gave a little bit of insight on how they made the film. Didn't sound like it came from a whole lot of crazy ideas. I mean, it's a shark movie, and if you have been watching any shark movie over the last 20 odd years, they're not the greatest films of all time, but they can be fun in terms of just schlocky entertainment. There really hasn't been one that has been excellent since perhaps Jaws, with some just being more guilty pleasures. Beast of War definitely is probably a guilty pleasure film for me, but I personally think that this was my favorite shark film that I have seen since Jaws. There was just so much to love about this, and it overcame some pretty significant barriers that I have with films that are about any kind of monster or animal killing a whole bunch of people. The film follows these soldiers during World War II that have some conflicts between each other, and they happen to get stuck in the ocean and they need to escape, but things get more difficult when a shark appears in the water and it is very hungry for these soldiers and is just waiting for them to get into the water. Now, the biggest pet peeve that I have in any kind of monster movie is that we want to see the monster kill a bunch of people. That is why you pay a ticket to go see a shark movie or whatnot, and a lot of them spend far too much time focusing on very boring, one-note and uninteresting characters rather than what we came to see, and that frustrates the hell out of me more than perhaps maybe any genre trope. This film does go into that trope a little bit, but it overcame it by actually writing interesting characters that I managed to connect with, so when one died, it felt significant, it felt tragic. Mark Cole-Smith, who plays the lead role in this film, was excellent, and I was just so invested in this character. The trauma that this character has gone through, that the film kind of gives you in snippets throughout the duration of its runtime, just adds a little bit of depth to this character that you need. And the way that he deals with the incompetence of some of these other soldiers who are very selfish, only want to take care of themselves, while also being extremely capable, makes for a very interesting character when they're in a crisis such as this. Now, all of the soldiers that he is stuck on this boat with aren't all friendly towards him. Some are, but some are also antagonistic, and seeing how that evolves over the course of the film was interesting and created a lot of entertainment value. Almost always seems to show up at the most inconvenient time, where things are just at their worst, when panic is at its highest. Someone will fall into the water or whatever, and the shark appears and will either take off someone's leg or kill someone in the most brutal fashion possible. And yeah, these soldiers don't do themselves any favors, because a lot of them are actually portrayed to be really stupid in this movie. I can see a criticism of this movie being that it takes a little bit too long for the shark to appear in the film. And while that may be true in a lot of cases, especially in films for this genre, once again, because I was interested in what was being set up with the character work, I didn't mind waiting a little bit, as it does talk about a portion of history that is quite significant to Australia, and that's not something that you see on the screen very often, especially if this is shown in front of an American audience. You're going to get introduced to just a little bit of history from Australia that may be different to what you may hear in a classroom or whatnot. The film can be quite gorgeous at times as well, with this interesting use of red lighting. The characters are enveloped in this red fog that just looks so ominous in the daytime, as these weak rays of sunshine just manage to get through the fog. It just adds a nice little aesthetic to the film, and I thought overall it was directed quite nicely. I think the visual effects on a shark in a film with as probably low of a budget as this one could have been really disastrous, but the film smartly utilizes animatronics instead, and more practical filmmaking, which I really, really liked. Yes, sometimes it can look like a scene or two was shot on a soundstage, but I think for what they were going for the budget that this film had, it translates quite nicely and does look better than movies that cost 4 or 5 times its budget. Apart from the lead role, there are some great supporting roles. Obviously, the antagonist of the film and the way that that dynamic evolves with the lead is interesting. There's also just ones that are created just for pure humor, like one that has a head injury that says some of the most out-of-pocket stuff at the worst time, and it adds to this really nice, awkward humor that just creates a nice little bit of levity to this movie. I feel like in terms of negatives, I think the ending of this movie is really rushed as it just speeds towards a conclusion and hits a lot of key points really quickly, which is a shame because there is a scene or two beforehand that just look really cool, such as one involving a Japanese soldier, which was just kind of badass to see and set up a really great shot. But as it hits those final moments in that final confrontation with the shark, it's just not quite all what I'd hoped it would be. It just doesn't hit the same ounce of quality as what it had set up previously. I could say objectively this film is not going to win any Oscars and might not be everyone's favorite kind of movie, but I did enjoy it. And if you do enjoy shark movies and that kind of schlock, I think this is one of the better ones you could watch. That ending definitely feels like the writing is just being a little bit too lazy, and it's just, it all feels a little bit too convenient and wrapped up in a nice little bow to be considered tremendously satisfying. I would have also liked to have seen a little bit more from the protagonist's past. I think that that was quite underdeveloped for what it had been set up, and yes, getting the little snippets adds a nice little layer of depth to the character, as I mentioned previously, but there's more there to explore, and I don't think the film does quite enough to almost justify it properly, which is a bit of a shame. Not all the performances are created equally as well. Mark Cole-Smith is excellent, while someone like Lee Tiger Halley seems a little bit out of his depth with this character and doesn't always turn out the strongest performance in this film. It wasn't enough to completely turn me away from this movie because honestly I was expecting a lot worse than this. But there's still flaws that need to be discussed when mentioning this movie. As a whole, I think Beast of War is a great film and just a fun time, especially for a shark movie. My expectations were very low for this, and it manages to really exceed them and become something that I just wasn't expecting at all. Ultimately, a fun screening, a fun movie that I definitely recommend, and if you can see it on the big screen, that just enhances this film so much more. And as a score, I'm going to give Beast of War a 4 out of 5, which is way higher than I was ever anticipating, but damn it, I love this movie and had a great time with it. And those are my thoughts towards Beast of War. If you've seen the movie, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.